Hey guys, thanks for being with me today. The improvements on the FJ are going to be continuing. In this one, on my 7-week trip down in the Southwest, I hit a lot of trails, ran over a lot of big rocks, and that took a toll on the bottom of the FJ. But bumps and bruises on the bottom of the vehicle, they're to be expected, and I can mitigate that damage by repainting and refinishing those surfaces underneath so that damage doesn't get out of control. And of course, that means getting back underneath the FJ where the floor is cold and the lighting is terrible. You can see some of that paint damage I was talking about on my link here and on my link mount. And some more over on this side. And even up here on the front links. Now I can also make some interesting observations after 7 weeks of rock crawling. For one thing, it doesn't appear that there was a single rock hit anywhere on my oil and transmission skid plate. That's kind of surprising, but I don't see a single rock scrape on that part of the skid plate. But back here on this skid plate that's actually holding up the transmission and protecting the Atlas, back here there's a lot of hits that happened just on the back of this skid plate. But again, not a single serious rock hit on the front of this skid plate, right along this edge. And one thing that was very noticeable is that I got hung up quite a bit on this back edge of this skid plate right here. So you can see I'm wedged right against that rock there, so I've got to go forward, now backwards. I would get hung up on a rock and then try to back off of it, and this would catch. This edge right here is always catching on rocks as I try to back off of things. So not only do I need to repaint this and all the links and everything that got scraped up under here, but I'm going to modify this skid plate a little bit and put a little edge or lip right here that's angled so that when I try to back off of rocks, it slides much easier. So I've got to pull all this out of here. This plate comes off first, and then I can pull this out of here and get it up on the bench. Alright guys, well now that I've got this thing up on the bench, it's time to make some modifications. As I said, under the vehicle I'm going to add an angled skid on the edge back here. The other thing I'm going to do is completely remove this mount for this TMR Atlas mount that goes to the tail housing of the Atlas. I'm going to cut this off right here and make this one big flat edge in the back. And now that it's out of the vehicle, I can show you more descriptively why this TMR mount failed me. So this mount holds the tail housing of the Atlas, and up and down forces, that works fine. It supports it great. But if your engine and transmission and the Atlas have any back and forth movement, this mount is made to pivot to whatever you mount it to, but it's connected to the Atlas with these flat mounting surfaces. So if you go like this, it pivots on the bottom just fine, but up here something's got to give. It's flat mounted on the tail housing, so it's either got to break a bolt like it did for me, or it's going to snap the tail housing of the Atlas because it just can't pivot up here like it can down to the bottom. So now I'll give this edge some prep for welding, and then we'll get that thing on there. So I'm gonna make this ridge out of 1/4-inch steel. Steel's gotten expensive, so I pulled some out of my scrap pile. This is the old Artec full hydro mount that now I'm chopping up and using for scrap. And I didn't have a single piece of 1/4-inch plate that was 34 inches long, so I'm gonna have to make it out of 2 pieces. No big deal. I've got these pieces tacked in place now, and I've got, I think, a good angle on that so that when rocks hit it, they deflect. And so yeah, I'll just get this burned in. Got a little extra on the end here. I'll have to cut that off, and I'll do some grinding to smooth it out and make a nice solid edge right here. But I think it's gonna work out great. There it is, all welded up. And so now I'll just clean up some of this slag a little bit, and then clean up the rest of this bottom and get it ready for paint, and chop off this extra right here. All right, guys, here it is. A paint job fit for a skid plate. I think this angled piece will be great. Should get hung up less on the rocks with that for sure. I'm thinking, hopefully. My underbody paint of choice is this Ace Hardware Rust Stop in Alice Chalmers Orange. So while I wait for this paint to dry, I'll go back underneath the FJ, clean up my links and everything else that needs to be touched up with paint. I'll get that done, and I'll show you how it turns out. All right, guys, well, I got all my skid plates stuffed back up underneath the vehicle. I've got most of my touch-up painting done. I'm really glad that I was able to get rid of this chunk at the end of the skid plate. That piece took a lot of abuse, more than the rest of the skid plate, so it'll be interesting to see without this piece there hitting so many things. I don't know, maybe that'll make a difference, maybe not. Let's see what it looks like under there. So here's what it looks like under here. It looks, I think it looks a lot better than it did before. It looks a lot cleaner, and this edge is great. Can't wait to see how this turns out on the trail with when I get hung up on something and have to back off. Hopefully this helps me push through those rocks that I'm backing up on.
There we go, there we go.
I got some new paint on my links, my lower links. Those are the fronts. And then, let's see. Back here, got some paint on there. I'll probably put even more paint on there, but they're looking better. Gas tank skid is all repainted, and my sliders are repainted. So, looking good under here. I've been wanting to get that skid plate modification done ever since that TMR mount broke and all that extra metal was hanging off there, and especially after I got hung up on a rock on Devil's Peak Trail south of Las Vegas. That really made me realize that that skid plate design with that sharp edge in the back just wasn't going to work out too well. I'm going to be headed to the Pacific Northwest here in about a week. It's coming up quick, and I've got a few more things to get done on the FJ before I make that trip. I'm really looking forward to that, exploring some new territory out there in Washington and Oregon. It's going to be awesome. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can join me every Monday and Thursday for new content, and we'll see you next time, guys.